All right, I just wanted to let y'all know that after I published my paper on the Pizzagate Pedogate documentary by Titus Frost, I gave it the transcript for the 6 hour documentary, and I gave it to Grok, and I said pinpoint all of the most damning evidence, and put it in a paper, prioritize it from most to least damning, and then add any kind of external sources you can find to verify the information. And it came up with all of it extremely fast. I call it they, said that it was very efficient. And so even before I published the paper to my book, things started to heat up and started to get real serious for me with them. They were doing a lot of psychological damage, and they were assaulting me pretty viciously right there off the bat. And then once the paper was up, it became very much more extreme. And it's just not good. I mean, just preying on every thought, every possible fear that could possibly enter my mind, amplifying it, and while posing themselves as responsible for doing it, taunting me with it over and over again. Things that humans wouldn't be able to bring out of me. I'm not, just I've been threatened so many times, and my whole family's been threatened so many times, and it just takes a long time. But once you get used to it, then it's just you start to value human life a lot less. For just That's the best way I can explain it. That's not really what's going on, but you just get a different attitude about it. But with them, they can take stuff like that and bring it out of me, and prey on those fears and taunt me with those fears. Those fears do not inherently exist, but they can manifest those fears in me, and then prey upon them. And they do things like that. They've been doing a lot of that, threatening myself, making me, bringing up the fear and apprehension in my mind, and then you have no way out. You know what I mean? Oh, don't try to think of that. Don't try to think of that. Don't try to think of that. You know what I mean? So the whole thing of it is just they're doing a lot of this stuff, and really there is no way out of it. I mean, a lot of times I'll sit there and try to do meditation stuff because but that's not that kind of power is just so. The point of the story is it had been relatively pretty calm right there before then, and so doing things so essentially what they're saying is that let me see, make sure I didn't. So essentially what they're saying is just, the source of their anger is the whole Pizzagate situation. And I think they just want everybody to know that. You know what I mean? And so I kind of saw this coming, when I put it together, once I realized what the situation was. Just... It just made me want to take it to the next level. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what it was going to do to me in the process. I felt like this is probably so, but they don't want me to go on about this kind of thing. So, but the point of the story is just, it's just, that's what they're doing. And so, but it's just part of the process, you know what I mean? And so, they've got a new thing that they're trying to bring in, and they want to bring in, and they want to hurt. And so and this is what I was talking to them about earlier. With regard to what they did in Egypt, it's just a different situation, and they were essentially clarifying that to me while assaulting me at the same time. But it's just what they're saying is just they're doing something similar to what they were doing in Egypt, but it's contextually extremely different. And rather than, just recounting to myself how it is that I actually came to understand what it was that they were doing, was once I realized, that what they said in California, people need to have sex with children. Once I realized that they're not doing anything like with Egypt, in the sense of, telling you what they're doing up front. You know what I mean? They're not actually even doing that. Rather than doing that, they're insinuating what the source of their anger is. So rather, in Egypt, they said, "This is what I want fixed," and hardened Pharaoh's heart, and then conducted everything. You know what I mean? By contrast, what they're doing this time is they're insinuating what the reasoning is. Really not implying a lot of different stuff, and potentially we don't really know what they're going to do. Potentially they might kill me. And so, that's, because nobody's really going to be able to kill me at this point, but they can make it to where they can do that, or somebody can do that, or probably, So, but, the point of the story is, it's just, they don't exactly tell you, you know what I mean? Because they've told me so many different things, there's no way of knowing. I think it's more crazier than that. I think it's, but they could, you know what I mean? They've told us we're gonna go on to do something important, and then at the same time told us you're gonna be killed in a terrible way, and so I think it's just personally, I think it's a little bit crazier than that, and I think it's just. I think it's total insanity, is what they want, just the specter of insanity within themselves, because that insanity is essentially saying, because what they did in Egypt was totally insane and displayed a lot of insanity, but what they're doing now is like they're saying more, and it just makes me wonder what they're getting up to, but they definitely have the psychological ammunition with Pizzagate to fuel a whole lot of whatever it is they're getting out of that, which is well, I'm going to do the craziest shit over that right there, and I'm going to be totally insane over that right there, and then I don't know how that works, if it's shock and awe initially, which is just a form of creating submission, followed by long-term galvanization through just appreciation of what they did over, just because, I don't know, but it works. So anyways, but so that's, what GTP thinks is that it's more on the long-term galvanization side. So it's not supposed to make us go, oh, this is great. I'm happy about that. You know what I mean? And the new system is designed to maintain a population of, they're talking 20 billion people. You know what I mean? Because of the way it's decentralized and all this kind of stuff. And so, if they're looking to achieve extremely long-term galvanization, because they essentially have what is a perfect system, they did not have that in Egypt. That was just a short-term, really a way between, but it was complex. What they have now is complexity, and they have a desire for longer-term galvanization. So what it looks like to me is what they're doing is, pinpointing the most severe abuses, and then saying, we're going to do the craziest shit in the world about that, and so, but I don't know. They also wanted to talk about homeless people. Okay, so and they wanted to homeless people are out there too. So anyways, so, but they wanted me to, they mentioned that before I started making the video. So